EdTech Mondays Uganda is supported by the Mastercard Foundation Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning and the Innovation Village. Welcome to EdTech Monday. Now, the world has made tremendous leaps on the path to digital literacy. But despite these leaps and growth, Africa as a continent is still left behind. 12 of the world's 20 slowest digital literacy countries are in Africa. This slowed growth in a very vital component for tackling new and emerging global problems means that Africa, and most especially Uganda, must work doubly to ensure its population is digitally literate. In this edition of EdTech Monday, done just a few days after the World Literacy Day, we shift our focus to digital literacy education. Thank you so much and welcome to the show. And thank you so much, my guests. I think I'll start with you. Introduce yourself to our audience so that they know where you're from and what you do.
Thank you, Raymond. My name is Shamim Nidere. I'm the team lead at Izere Education. Izere Education is a social enterprise that is driving a vision of quality 21st century learning outcomes for all, not only for the ones that can afford, but for everybody. That our children in schools should be having learning outcomes that align with today's needs of work. I am also pursuing my master's degree in curriculum studies. I'm really investing in curriculum, what curriculum practices can we do to achieve the quality 21st century learning outcomes. And considering the government is doing a great job in revamping our curriculums, it's important to work there.
All right, thank you so much. And yourself?
Thank you so much, Raymond. I am teacher Basemera Stella Maris, aka Miss Math Tutor, and I lead Creative Learning Africa, where we assist learners struggling with mathematics and sciences, especially those that have had trouble ever since they joined school. We help them using simple and fun learning methods, games. We use comics, and we also use music, especially rap, math rap. And we also have a STEM center where we have the science lab, the ICT lab, and we are helping learners to build these digital skills as well as enhance their STEM skills.
I must tell you, first of all, I wasn't good at math, so I might as well enroll for classes immediately after here. But maybe if I start with you, there's a number there, and since you're the math person, in the world, the 20 weakest countries at digital literacy, 12 of those are in Africa. That in itself is a problem. When you're defining digital literacy in your world, what does that mean?
In my world, digital literacy is the ability to use digital devices with ease. By digital devices, I'm looking at phones, computers, cameras, anything electronic can be used, is a digital device. And also the ability to understand how to navigate the internet, the ability to know what to take in and what not to take in, and then also information about cybersecurity. I call that digital literacy.
Shamim, in that definition of digital literacy, of course, is embedded technology that's required. I mean, you have to be digitally literate on technology. But in many places in this country, that technology is not yet available. The people in upcountry towns, for example, don't have the money to afford this kind of technology. So how do we talk about literacy for technology we can't buy yet or we can't afford?
It is unfortunate. I agree with Stera's definition of digital literacy. Even the simple ability of someone navigating a smartphone or a feature phone is a little bit digital literacy component. Unfortunately, we have a challenge of infrastructure. We have, as of 2022, we had 57 penetration of electricity across Uganda, and 19% of that was on grid and 37 off grid. Now, off grid solar sometimes is limiting. People have phones and they can't charge them. They have to take them in town. Fortunately, right now, government of Uganda has improved electricity. Currently, I come from a village called Chi. It's not a village, it's a town.
It's a village, please.
It is, yes. But considering we actually really have on-grid power now. So that is hopeful. It gives us hope. that we can have the digital divide crossed. But the simplest way we can achieve that is putting smartphones in hands of teachers, because teachers can extend that to their learners. If they can just give them 1 hour of interacting with digital tools or their computers, because the other thing is we have gadgets in our schools in sub-counties, but they are not powered, they are not accessible for learners. So we have a computer lab gathering dust, which is a problem. So I would think, yes, we have opportunities that we can leverage on before we achieve 100% connectivity. Because the truth is we really can't wait. Like quality digital skills cannot wait for that child in the deepest village in Kalangara or in Oyam in Minakru. They have to be brought on board, and we can't wait for 10 years when everything is okay for them to be on board. So what do we do? How do we start with what we have? Allow children touch computers in office. Let's remove them from offices and give them learners. Let's demystify that this computer is such, I have to stay away from it. That is a starting point.
This is a mindset problem that we can start with. Many people actually have devices. Many teachers have the smartphone devices. But in the mindset shift, it's smartphones spoil children. Children are not due for having smartphones. All teaching must be on blackboards. How do you tackle that mindset shift amongst teachers who have already graduated from their teaching school and they're out there executing the curriculum?
Now, the first thing that needs to be done is to sensitize. There's a lot of sensitization that needs to be done out there, in that we need to learn about the good things and the bad things of using smartphones. Many people out there are thinking, okay, if I give my child this smartphone, if I give my students this smartphone, they're going to look for bad information. That is where sensitization comes in. You need to teach the children how to use the internet. You need to show them how to navigate the internet. How do you look for information on the internet? That is very basic knowledge. You need to show them these things, right? Excuse me. You need to show them where to search, which websites are you going to use. We have open education resources, OERs. You need to show them where to find these OERs, because that is where the educational content is, and you need to monitor. You don't just leave a smartphone in the hands of a learner and you let it be there. You need to monitor and be sure what they are doing. So we need to take on these measures. We sensitize, and we need to show people that when you use a smartphone, it is not a bad thing entirely. It's just that most people are using it for the wrong thing, or the people we know are using it for the wrong thing. So we get this idea that perhaps it's a bad thing, but actually it's not a bad thing. I'll give an example of WhatsApp. Most people think WhatsApp is a space where you go and chat, do a lot of talking, catch up with the shows, a lot of time wasting, but you can use it as an educational tool. In COVID-19, most students struggled to get data. They struggled to get internet. Zoom is heavy. Zoom is very heavy. Some of them couldn't even afford to keep it for 40 minutes before the data plan runs out. But WhatsApp is something that is a platform that uses very little data. So you could easily teach someone using WhatsApp. WhatsApp is, even the cheapest smartphone can have WhatsApp.
But you know, some of the teachers' concerns are not without merit. The destructive nature of technology on the smartphone. WhatsApp, for example. If 7 students in a classroom have WhatsApp, that means they will start to chat with each other. And during a classroom, how do you regulate between them actually chatting with each other and paying attention to a class? Isn't there a foundation to say, okay, maybe you need to develop edtech tools that are separate from existing communication tools?
Now, you can take measures to control that kind of interaction. First of all, you create groups of students. And then when you're teaching online, you have to make sure every 5 minutes the child is engaged with something. Because if you give them an activity to do in 5 minutes, they'll do it, take a picture, send it. So if you just leave them idle, it is very easy to get distracted. But I would also appreciate creating separate online sites where they can go, and it's entirely studying. But we are looking at a situation where that is the only tool the child has, and that is the only tool they know how to use. Because at least with this chatbot kind of technology, people already know how to use it. Even the people in the village also know how to chat because they send messages. So you just need to be creative about it so that it doesn't get destructive.
Shami, talk to me about developing edtech tools outside of the already existing technology that we know, and what's the interaction of students with those edtech tools?
Okay. So currently we have so many edtech resources, so many, even the ones which were existing before COVID and after COVID and during COVID, most institutions actually came up with edtech versions of what they offer, mostly. And my prayer is that those solutions are still there. So we have edtech solutions which are outside the mainstream and they are strictly edtech. We have like Coribri. It's a project. I think government of Uganda also has part in it that is accessible. However, those tools mostly stay in Kampala and Wakiso and maybe Mukono. The deepest child still in say Achimi, that is in Oyam, has absolutely no idea of what this is about. So those solutions can be scaled by government because we have them already. Personally, Izere Academy is accessible online. However, it is not accessible to the people who don't have electricity. It's not accessible to people who don't have the internet. Though there are some resources which are zero-rated by the telecos around, but they're not scaled down to the last mile beneficiary. So I feel like even before we think of creating other resources, how about government scales the available working solutions in Kampala to the government schools? I'll give an example. Government schools which are doing well in Kampala that have edtech solution, government has capacity to have that zero-rated and shared in a classroom in Kanungu, shared in a classroom in Oyam. So those platforms which are already existing are there. Schools really made solutions. There are so many solutions of edtech in Kampala alone before we even get free resources like Khan Academy and the other zero-rated resources. How do we, creating accessibility is the big issue from my experience, because teachers are there already teaching, paid by government already. So it wouldn't hurt to have that content scaled down and allowing other children to also create, because the other biggest aspect I've seen that can scale edtech solutions and make it meaningful is to allow our young people to also be contributors other than just consumers. You can't just consume content, you can also create. Can they create stories? And maybe in a sub-region where they speak another language, can the children educate us their stories? What do they know? What do they see? Can they do some are they like tell us stories, and then it will be more interesting for the child to also understand that their stories being consumed. So it's going to create that intrinsic motivation for that child to want to learn more. How do I edit my video? How do I wait on my response? Let me see feedback. Let me engage with the feedback. So the solutions available, the platforms available, they're already not being utilized. So why are we even creating others? So let's harness into that.
Let's take a very short break, but when we get back, we'll talk about this question of scale and the role that both private sector and government can play. So I want both of you to think about what you can do with government around scale. But let's take a very short break. EdTech Monday returns very briefly. EdTech Mondays Uganda is supported by the MasterCard Foundation Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning and the Innovation Village. Welcome back to EdTech Monday. Just before we took the break, we talked about the scale. How can we scale EdTech solutions to reach everywhere across the country? And this is where I want to pick up the conversation from. Government is already doing a tremendous job. They're paying the teachers, they're building the curriculum, they're examining the people in that curriculum, they're building the institutions, whether it's brick and mortar schools or providing for students to learn. All of that requires money. It then can't be government's problem now to scale EdTech solutions across the country. So what is it that private sector can do in concert with government to help them in that regard?
First of all, I'm grateful that there are so many hubs that we have, and they encourage young minds to come together and create all these EdTech solutions that can be implemented. And then even us as usual people, okay, we are in the private sector, we need to do our part as well. We can't wait for the government all the time to come to us and then give us this and that. We can't wait all the time to be given. We need to also do something. If I'm in a position to maybe donate a computer in some school in the village, I should be able to do that. If I can go do a teacher training about digital literacy and then encourage them to collect money and buy a laptop, the cheapest laptop I think is 500,000, mini laptop is 500,000 shillings. So you go and have a digital literacy session with the teachers. Teacher training is very, very important. And then you tell them about the good things of using these digital tools. Encourage them to pool money, because if they are 40 and each one of them brings 25,000, they can buy for themselves a piece. And then they use it in their school, something like that. So as people in the private sector, we need to play our part as well and not wait for the government to keep on pinching in. And then for those developing digital tools, they need to create inclusive tools, because we have persons with disability. You need to mind about persons with disability when you're creating these tools. That's why you find that some people are not using the tools because it doesn't favor them. Imagine someone who is visually impaired. How are they going to use a tool that is just about reading? How, if someone is having an audio impairment, how are they going to use a tool that is only speaking? So you need to include all these things. So there needs to be a lot of digital inclusion in the tools that are being created. But again, I say, if there's something that you can do as an individual, that doesn't break the law. You go ahead and do it. Because it should be teamwork. Eh? It's not something that we need to leave government to do alone. Yes, please.
All right. Shamib, let's speak about the role that the private sector has, and now in a more honest way. The government, first of all, has amended the curriculum to look exactly like the private sector wanted it. They've tilted the economy in such a way that, one, there is tax-free importation for some, learning tools mostly coming tax-free. Those things that government has done show that it's a government willing and ready to work with the private sector. But it doesn't seem to be like the private sector is warming up. And maybe you could speak to which private sector leaders would you want to play an important role in EdTech and digital literacy? Thank
you very much. And we really appreciate all the changes government is doing. Government is really doing a great job in education reform. I would like to look at two people, the private sector and also development partners. Development partners are really doing a good job. I'll give an example that I've been part of and I'm sure about. World Vision in 1 year set up over 30 innovation spaces in the districts it works in, but also they have, in all districts they work in, they have literacy centers. These literacy centers are low cost, that it's a village coming together to set up a space where children can come and do literacy activities. Now, that is a low-hanging fruit for government to start from there. Start from there and say, okay, now that there's this infrastructure in its way, it's not developed, what can we extend? There are players in the private sector really doing a great job, but we're working in silos. Don't know how to collaborate mostly. So you are doing the same solutions, but on a small scale. And yet there's so much opportunity to collaborate. I'll give an example. We've set up low-cost innovation spaces in the districts we work in collaboration with some development partners and other places, just in collaboration with a community-based infrastructure, maybe a church, maybe a youth center, anywhere where children gather. Now, there are businesses in that place. I want to give an example that if we set up a space, say in Oyam or in Gulu, there are businesses, they are making money out of that community, and they have the corporate social responsibility to support. And most people actually want to support. Most private sector would love to support. Maybe they lack the structure. So my call would be to the private sectors like Zero Education and other people doing amazing work in the education space. How do we go in the communities that we are working in? And please, I'm asking people, let's get out of Kampala and think of those communities. Go there, ask the people in this place. For example, Raymond, where do you come from? Your village, Fort Portal. If someone had a solution in Fort Portal that is extending literacy, maybe an innovation space for children around Dohaga, something, I know that place, and they say just contribute 30,000 or 10,000 a month in an organized way, wouldn't you contribute? Would love. Most people would love to be part of those solutions. So it is now upon us, the players, to call upon the private sector and individuals to come and support. And I once again say that there are so many solutions being done. We just need to tap into and ask, how can we be of help? So I would encourage private sector to take initiative. Let's be solution thinkers.
Yeah. We've spoken at length about inclusion in the digital literacy space, but there are people who are watching this who are already included in that digital literacy space, and maybe now want us to talk about what are the positive impacts that digitally literate people can offer their countries. What is it you see that digitally literate people can do for their countries on the path to development or in increasing taxes? What are some of those advantages?
Okay, the first advantage is already happening in my space. There's creation of employment. I'm employing teachers here in Uganda to teach students in UK. So that is as a result of digital literacy, because they can teach online. Now, another thing is that it promotes international collaboration to solve problems in different parts of the country. There is a gentleman called Sean Robinson. He created connections-based learning, and he collaborated with a school in Luwero, and they were just communicating online. They were just Skyping each other, and then they came up with a solar solution to power the school laptops. So the students, the other side, created a solution for the students this side. The gentleman flew into the country and actually delivered. So it also creates international collaborations to solve problems. And then the other thing is that it promotes expert learning. You're not going to get a teacher from a certain school that they know is good at a certain subject. You can as well record that person, get the recording, take it to the school in the village. So it is making sure everyone accesses, majority, access very important educational resources, so that it is trying to close that gap of the urban areas and the rural areas in terms of digital literacy in line with education. So it is trying to bridge that gap. So development-wise, all those things, first of all, the government will get more taxes when it comes to creating employment. You'll pay NSSF, you pay the teachers, they pay NSSF, and then they will also do the pay-as-you-earn and all that thing. So there's money coming into the country as a result of digital literacy. Then there are spaces which are expensive to rent out in order for you to start a business. The digital space has enabled the youth create employment, has enabled the youth start businesses, and they are contributing towards taxation because they can operate online without having to look for space.
Shami, what are some of the positive outcomes of digitally illiterate populations?
Oh my God, there are so many. Right now, if you're looking for jobs, it's to your benefit that you're digitally literate. So digital literacy would, first of all, allow us to promote the learning to learn, which is a 21st century skill, the skill to learn. All of us are upskilling somehow. So we are not going to wait for our children to be adults to start telling them, now you upskill. Our children would start learning all these other much needed skills we are asking them to learn from the many platforms that are available. If we have an academy that is teaching all these skills, and is accessed by a P4 child in a primary school somewhere as part of their ongoing extracurricular, they are developing that skill set at an early age. And with with more years, they develop expertise. So you're now going to find a very competent generation. We shall solve the problem where we keep saying our young people are leaving universities when they are not ready to work. It's not their fault. It is going to give people opportunity to earn money. The Ugandan economy, we are less than 50 million as a population. It's a small economy, and the purchasing power is almost half of that. Yet there's a huge world out there of the digital economy where people can get work in the US when you're in Uganda. You can sell your skill set to offer help to, I mean, we are buying value from children in India or children in Asia as young as 15 years on Fiverr and Upwork and other platforms. Our children have the same potential, they just lack the opportunity. So if we give that digital literacy, we are giving our children that opportunity to be included in the global economy, which is over 8 billion people. That is massive for the country. We are solving the unemployment problem without doing so much. We are including and transforming their communities without doing so much, just giving them a chance to be on the same platform like a child in the US who is the same age. The other thing is content. Right now, there's so much money in content creation, and our children have stories. They are great storytellers. Their content is unique. Their creativity is unique. Our young people are just consuming content on TikTok from everywhere else except them. So we would include them to be part of the content creators and people who shape their future by bringing them to be like collaborators. And let me tell you, even women, a group of women, there are so many skills development programs to skill girls and women. Women are great storytellers. If you started a content creation program just from the smartphone, just their digital phone, women in the markets, do you know I would subscribe to listen to those stories and they would earn money. Those stories in the market, oh my God. And it is as simple as equipping them with that skill set that your smartphone can do so much. We have included people, private players like Safe Border has included border people in the digital economy. There is so much we can do to include teachers and say, let's give teachers a zero-rated, if you're a teacher and you're in the government payroll, you have zero-rated access to WhatsApp and these websites. That is a good starting point. It will bring so many of our children benefits and our young people and even the people going to the exporting labor, we shall be exporting our value and skill set just from digital skills training.
All right, thank you so much, my guests, for being such knowledgeable guests about digital literacy. We've been speaking about the place and space for digital literacy across Africa. And of course, this show just comes a few days after the World Literacy Day. Thank you so much, our wonderful viewers, for being part of us. EdTech will return at its next edition. Thank you so much. EdTech Mondays Uganda is supported by the MasterCard Foundation Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning and the Innovation Village.